Hello everybody, it's Gail. I want to thank everybody for responding to my D-stash. I was floored at the number of people that would be interested in my Lucy mini slicer, but it is sold, it's boxed up, ready to go, and it will be shipping tomorrow. But just thank everybody. I wish I had one for everybody because it's actually, I prefer the big one. And I just decided, even though the big slicer is pretty large, if I was going to travel anywhere and take one with me, I would still take it. It's just, to me, it's just priceless. But I wanted to show everybody what I was thinking about doing. You know, I'm thinking Christmas, believe it or not. For the first time in my life, I'm thinking Christmas ahead of time. And I got to thinking, what I was thinking, my church, my Sunday school class, doesn't take up an offering in the Sunday school class. And we do a lot of things for different types of missions, you know, local and foreign. And we have an auction about every 2 years, and the class members go out and donate things or try to get donations, or they donate things they've made themselves. And 2 years ago, I made some pumpkin earrings. And I just donated one pair, and I didn't go to the auction, but I found out that there was like a bidding war going on for those pumpkin earrings. I didn't realize they would be so popular. So it's, you know, getting close to the end of the summer. Kids will be going back to school in a few weeks, which is hard to believe. So I thought I would show you now how to make some pumpkin earrings. And there are tutorials out there on making them, and you know, they're fine. I make mine a little different. So I just thought I would show you the way that I do it. Now what I have done is I opened some Primo orange clay. And this is the old color. This is the old orange. And it was a little bright for pumpkins. So I took just a tiny, tiny piece. Actually, I'll show you how big a piece I used. This is 1/3 of 1/4 of a section of clay. So this is one section. I cut it into fourths, then I sliced that into 3 pieces, and I was just going to add a little at a time until I toned down the orange, and actually only one section is all I needed. So that's how big a piece of brown I put in with my clay. And it's not a big change. I don't even know if you can tell on camera. But it just toned it down a little bit, because pumpkins aren't bright orange. I don't know if any of you have seen pumpkins in the natural, you know, in the garden, but they're not bright orange. And let me just tell you a little bit of a tip. I need to roll this through one more time back on the number 1. When I was mixing this, it occurred to me that I needed to tell you a few little things about using your pasta machine. When I use my pasta machine and I'm putting clay into it, I always, 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 always start with the number 1 setting. And the reason I do that is usually I'm starting with clay like this. And I'm going to cut it into slices that will fit into the pasta machine. And, you know, I'll slice. Let me see how this went. This went that way. That way. But I'll slice it into slices so it'll go through my pasta machine. And even though the pasta machine is a great tool, it needs to be treated like it is a tool. When you try to force too much clay into your pasta machine, you're going to make the gears work extra hard. And the gears are the only thing that keeps your pasta machine running. When the gears start getting messed up, you start getting ripples in your clay, the rollers get sideways, and things just happen. So I always start with a number 1. I try to get my clay, actually let me show you. I'll slice, what I would normally do is slice a section off, and I would do the whole thing, but since I don't need it, I'm not going to do that. But say this, you know, and then I would line them up, and then I would roll them with my roller, which sort of helps the warming process and the conditioning process. But if I had like 5 of these side by side, it would also help them get together. And you can see it's not conditioned because it's kind of crumbly. And run it through the pasta machine on the number 1 setting until it's nice. You can start seeing it's flexible. Now, what I ended up doing when I was adding the brown is I just put a little piece of brown on my orange, and I rolled it through the pasta machine, and you know, a couple of times. Then what I did is I went from the number 1 down to a number 3 setting. And the reason for that is when you're blending colors, it helps to blend the colors better. It also will help you condition your clay quicker, because you're putting more pressure on it. But roll it through a number 1. Like, let me show you. I'll run this through the number 1. Then I will turn my pasta machine down to a number 3. Now I don't fold it because the machine itself is going to be thinner. And see how much it made this bigger? Now I want this to be a number 1. So I would fold it in half and then go back to number 1. But you can, like I said, it helps to blend the colors quicker. It helps to condition the clay quicker. So start off on number 1 and then go down to a number 3. And if you need to go back to a number 1, just fold it in half, lower your dial to number 1 or 0, depending on what your largest is, and then run it through it again. So that's what I've done. I've toned down my orange just a little bit. I'm going to need some green, and I'm going to use these scraps. I told you I kept bowls on my table, and look at all these greens. And I'm going to pick some greens out of here that I think will make a pretty leaf color. We're going to have little vines on it, and then I'm going to need just a little bit of brown, and I'm going to stick with this raw sienna, and because all we need is just a tiny bit for each one for the stem that comes out of the top. So I've rolled this out on a number 1. I have a Kemper cutter, and I believe this is, it's not quite a 1/2 inch. I'm not sure exactly what the size is, but it's just about a 1/2 inch size. And what for each earring, I'm going to punch out 3 circles. And the reason I use a cutter is because I need to make sure that each one of these pieces is the same size. And same thing like if you're mixing clay, when you say you need 1 part, just for instance, 1 part raw sienna and 10 parts of orange to make the color you want. If you use a cutter, or you could use a larger cutter, it doesn't even have to be round. It can be square, it can be heart-shaped, it can be anything. As long as you use the same cutter, like this would be 6 parts of orange, and then I could lay out the brown just to show you. That would be 1 part brown. And I could mix those together to get a color, but I'm not going to mix those because I don't need any more brown in this. But save your scraps. Like I said, I'm going to blend a little bit of this for leaves, and I could have even used some of our scraps from our canes we did last week to make the stem, but since I already had the raw sienna out, I thought I'd use it. But let me go ahead and show you. I'm not going to blend the green yet. I want to show you how I make my pumpkins. And this is the part that's different from most of the tutorials that you'll see out there. What I like to do is to take each one of these sections and roll it into a ball. And I told you on one of my other tutorials, if you go back and forth, well, let me just show you. Let me just go, I'm going clockwise with my hand, and look at the shape of my clay. Well, I want it round. So I'm going to roll that way a little bit, then I'll roll back the other way, counterclockwise. Then I'll go back to clockwise and counterclockwise. Oops. Oh, well, it's still a little bit oval, but you can press it. Doesn't have to be exactly round, but this is going to be one section of my pumpkin, and I'm going to do this for 3 of them. I'm just going to make one right now so you can see, and then I'll repeat. It also helps to hold your fingers up. I don't know what that does to how you roll the clay, but make sure you're rolling with the palms of your hands. And like I say, they don't have to be perfectly round because we're going to squish them anyway. But I'm just showing you my method. All right, just make sure all the seams are out of the clay. Sometimes when you put something together, you have a little seam, and those are all done. Now, what I do that's different from most other tutorials, and let me see if I can come in closer because I don't know how close I can go and still have it focus. I take this round ball, and I'll take, this is a T-pin. I don't know if everybody's got them, but everybody I'm sure has seen them. You can use, a toothpick is a little bit too big. I have on here somewhere a bead pin. Actually, I think I put it away the other day. I told you I'm reorganizing my craft room and I'm putting things away, and now I'm at the point where I'm having trouble remembering where I put things. But I always keep these on my desk. You could use, I've got a little piece of wire somewhere that was always getting in my way, and now that I want it, it's not here, of course. Here it is. You could take a piece of wire, a thin piece of wire, but I'm going to use the T-pin just because it's stiffer. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to press right down the middle, all the way from top to bottom. I don't go all the way through, but then I pinch that together. Can you see that? Now that's going to be one section of my pumpkin. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one, all the way down, and then pinch. And you see I just pinched it before I pulled the pin out, so that's a good way, in case you go too far, you can still keep it together. And push that, and then push together. So now I have 3 sections that I'm going to put together into one section. And you just have to finagle it a little bit. But see, I've got all 3 now together, and you can see that it looks like a pumpkin. Now you just want to make sure that they are together. But see, my pumpkin has a hole in the middle. But that hole is where I'm going to put a bead pin, or an eye pin, or a head pin, or something. Now when you look at the top, these squares these little grooves may not go all the way down. So just take your pin and just push where they need it. You can also even take your pin and just make a few little dents, just miscellaneous. They don't have to be deep, and they don't have to be in the same place. But you know, pumpkins sometimes have little imperfections on them. But there's my pumpkin. Can you see that? Now, what most people do, and I'll do this with the bright orange just because it's here, and it's going to be bigger, so maybe you can see better. The tutorials that I have seen usually take a ball of clay. Let me get all the seams out. Of course, this orange isn't conditioned because I put it aside. to show you the difference in color. But what most people do is they'll take a ball of clay and then they will take a pin or whatever and just make grooves down the side. And that's fine and dandy, but I have had a terrible time getting these grooves to line up. See, like right there, moving the pin, I've got it out of alignment. And I just don't think they look as nice. So that's why I came up with this idea. And you can just make sure that they're together and that they're holding. You don't want to press them too much because you don't want to lose your little grooves. And I'll do the same thing. I'll make another one. So I'll roll this just so you can see it again. Roll each one of these sections. And again, this is not quite a 1/2 inch circle cutter. And you can use any size circle cutter you want. You might want bigger earrings. Some people like the size earring as opposed to the littler, smaller earring. I'm not a big earring person, but, you know, I really like this size. My sister, who isn't even, she wears post earrings. She doesn't wear anything that dangles. But I gave her a pair of these, and she absolutely loved them. And then she was working at a school at the time, and you know, people that work in schools, teachers and people in the office and everything, they dress up for all the holidays. So when Thanksgiving, or I guess it was Halloween first, the fall holidays, when they started coming, she started wearing her pumpkin earrings, and she got me like 3 or 4 orders where everybody else wanted the pumpkin earrings. So they're real popular, but they are seasonal. But the good thing about, I'm not a big Halloween person. I don't do ghosts and goblins and jack-o'-lanterns and things like that. But a pumpkin can represent Halloween, and it can also represent Thanksgiving. So let me do this again. Let me show you what I do. Push it down and pinch. And push it down and pinch. And push it down and pinch. And then you take these 3 and get them together. And experiment with sizes. As long as you make 2 that are the same size, you'll be in good shape. But if if you're not sure what size you'll like, just keep experimenting. If you get a size that you don't like, ball up the clay and start over again. This is polymer clay, after all, and it's a wonderful medium because you can, if you don't like what you're doing, just ball it up and start over. You haven't lost a thing except time. And I'm just making sure these creases come all the way to the top. And I'm going to put a few extras in here just because I did it on the others in between, because pumpkins are not smooth. And there's my second pumpkin. So there is my set of pumpkins for this set of earrings. Now the next thing I'm going to do is the leaves and the stem and everything, but I'm going to mix up some of my green, and I don't know what color I'm going to end up with. I might have to fiddle with it a little bit since I'm using scraps, but I'm going to do this off camera, and then I'll be back. Be back in a few minutes. Okay, I'm back. I mixed up this green, which was, like I said, it was just some scraps that were in my scrap bowl, but that looks like a nice fall leaf green. So I've got this rolled out onto a number 3, and I think I might even go down to a number 5, because you don't want your leaf to be real thick. Let me try this. Okay, this is on a number 5 now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another Kemper cutter. This one is sort of a leaf shape. might be a little big for what I want. I should have another one. Yeah, I'm going to try this one. This one's a little bit smaller. That's more the size that I want. And I'm going to cut, just going to cut some leaves. I may as well cut a bunch while I've got my green out here. They're not going to all go on these 2 earrings, but if I make any more, I'll have the leaves already done. There you go. Now another thing, if you use your ceramic tile to work on and you use your cutters, the clay that you've cut will usually stick to your tile, so you don't have to worry about you know, separating it from here, punching it out with your fingers or whatever, because this will usually pull up. Now if you're on a piece of paper or on something that's not slick that the clay will stick to, then you will probably have a problem with it sticking. Because it probably won't stick. I'm just going to put a few more marks in my pumpkin. Okay. So now you have to determine which side you want to be the top and the bottom, because sometimes the different ends look different, and some of them might look better than the other. We're going to cover up most of what's on top, so what I would do is put my best side on the bottom. And when you're doing this, I told you that you had a little hole, but try to make the hole as small as you can, because you need to put a pin in there and need something for it to keep it from going all the way through. And I think this will be the top to this one. So I'm putting the bad side up because that's where we're going to put our leaves. Wipe off the orange off of my kidney. So let me just slice some of these loose so I can pick them up easier. So here's a little leaf. Actually, I messed that one up. Let me use this one. I'm going to lay it in my hand. Can you see the little leaf? I'm going to take the same pin and I'm just going to make a little line for the vein. I guess I need to come in for this too, don't I? See the little line I made for the main vein, and then just press a few places. Doesn't even have to be really bright, dark lines, but just to give it the impression of a leaf. And because these are small. And let me do another one so I can at least finish one. Whoops, got out of focus there for a minute. Just take a pin and run down the middle, and then just add a few little side veins. And actually before I do that, I'm going to take some of this green clay. Let me see if I can just get these to slide over a little bit. I'm going to take just a little bit of the green clay and I'm going to roll a snake. Now these are going to be pretty tiny pumpkins, so this is going to have to be a pretty tiny snake. But you know how on pumpkins, some of them you'll see little vines that are still attached? Well, this is going to be one of those little vines. And you just go very, very little, very, very tiny. As tiny as you can make them and still have them be manageable. If you have an extruder, you can extrude them, but they kind of look better if you roll them with your fingers, even if you use an extruder. Just because you've seen things in nature, plant stems and things, and they're not perfect. Okay, so I've got this pretty much. some reason I can't get right there. Well, I'll just keep trying. Then take your pen that you've been using and take this and kind of wrap it around your pen. Not tight. You don't want it to stick. Till it's as long as you want it. I probably don't want it but maybe that long. Can you, where'd I go? Can you see that? How about if I do this? Maybe you can see that better. See, I just wrapped around several times. And I'm going to take that, make sure I've got the right end because that turned over, and press it into the center of your pumpkin. And then slide your pen out. Well, and it came out. That's okay. Actually, I kind of like the way it did. Just stick this down in that little hole, one end. And this isn't as easy as it sounds. You would think it would be. But just get it close. And this is where you might use a toothpick because there's a little bit more tooth on the toothpick to just press it down into that little hole. And you can arrange it any way that you want coming down the side here. I'm just going to leave that there. Can you see that? And it looks like a little piece of vine that's still stuck on the pumpkin. So you want to do this with both. And again, they don't have to be exactly the same because you're not going to find two little pumpkins that are exactly the same. But do another one. Let me start over here. If you have a hard time rolling like that with your fingers, you can try a little acrylic block. And that'll roll it a little more even, but you're going to want to finish it up with your fingers just to add some little grooves in it. Or I'll leave this one ungrooved. And I'm going to leave it attached until I roll it around my pen. Whoops. That I dropped. And I think that right there is going to be plenty. Just, sorry, out of frame. Pinch it off. Let me try that. Well, this is not going to be close to the point. I don't think this is going to work, but anyway, you can stick it down with the pen, I tell you, and then take your toothpick and get it to stick, and then pull the pin out while you're holding the vine, and this kind of folded over on itself, so I'm just going to pinch that piece off. And there's another little tendril. And you might not want it to stick out too much, so just press it lightly to where it sticks to your clay, to your pumpkin. But see how that looks? So now we have two little tendrils, one on each pumpkin. I'm going to do two more leaves because I think I want two leaves on each pumpkin. Sometimes I just put one. It just depends on how everything is coming together. So that's 3. But if I decide to put 2, I'll have them. Again, I'm just taking the pen, going down the middle, and then just making little marks. Don't need to press hard. You don't want to cut through the clay, you just want to put a mark on it. Okay. Now I've told you before that I love toothpicks. This one I've got to get rid of. It's got other colors of clay on it. But I'm going to use the toothpick to pick up my leaf. And I'm going to place it right there next to the little hole. And I'm just going to give it a little push with my toothpick. And then I'll take another one and put it, or maybe there, and give it a little push with my toothpick. And I'm going to bend them down a little bit so they're not sticking out too far. But here's this one. See, it's got the little tendril and 2 leaves. So let me put the leaves on this one. Press it in. If you're making a pair of earrings, it's better that at least with the leaves and things that they be very similar. When I say similar, at least have 2 leaves on each one. It doesn't have to be perfect and exact. But now before I do the stem, what I'm going to do, I have a little ball pin. It's a head pin with the end of it is a ball. And I'm going to stick it from the bottom through here. And I'm going to make sure that this bottom hole is going to be small enough that that's not going to go through. And I'm going to do the same thing with another one. Just go through this hole. Make sure that this on the bottom is small enough that this won't go all the way through. And it'll go through whatever you know, the tendril, the leaf, whatever might be in that hole, it's going to go through that. Now I'm going to take just a little piece of brown. And I mean a little piece. If I roll it into a ball, that may even be too big. Let me maybe pinch that in half. Maybe I can use that for both. This is about the size of, what did that be about the size of? I don't know anything that small. But anyway, what I do is I make a little oblong, and then I flatten the 2 sides, 2 ends rather. And it's probably easier to flatten with your blade. This one is not very sharp, so it's not going to hurt me. But just, let's do 2 blades. Let me just flatten each side just a little bit. And then we're going to take this and put it right up against this head pin. Just let it come out at an angle. And you can use your toothpick to refine it and to make sure it's stuck. You can even put a few little grooves in it so it looks a little natural. But that's the stem. Let me try placing this with my toothpick, see if that helps any. Except I can't get it up. There we go. And I'll just put a few little grooves in it just because it's a stem. It's not something smooth, it's got texture to it. Then I'll take these 2 little pumpkins. Can you see the little pumpkins? I think they are so, well, let me get it where it's going to focus. Focus. Let me try it on the white again. Whoops. They're rolling all over the place. But there's my two little pumpkins. Now I'll bake these according to your manufacturer's directions. This is Primo, so I will bake them at 275. And I always bake everything for an hour, regardless of how thin or fragile it is, just because I want to make sure it's strong. And if your clay is not baked to where it's strong, then it might crumble, it might fall apart, it could do anything. So I'm going to go ahead and bake it, and I will be back after they come out of the oven. Okay, I'm back, and they haven't been baked yet, but while I was waiting for my oven to heat up, I made another little pair of earrings, and I just made these a little longer than this one. See, this one is more round, and this one's just a little bit longer. So I've got two pair of earrings now, and I wanted to show you how I'm going to bake them. I'm going to take a, let me go out so you can see what I'm doing. I'm taking a regular index card, and I'm going to do an accordion fold. Just fold it back and forth. And really that's enough, but I'll do one more anyway. Do an accordion fold, and then you spread it out a little bit, and then take your pumpkins and set them in the accordion. Don't put your tendrils up because they will squash. I mean, don't put them down. So let me just do it that way. That's one pair. And this is another pair. And this way, they aren't on a flat surface, so there's not going to be any shiny places on them when they're baked. And they're supported, and everything is going to work great. So I just wanted to show you this before I put them in the oven. The oven's heated. I'm going to put them in there now, so I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. The pumpkins are out of the oven, and they've cooled off, and they're a little dull looking, but that's the nature of the clay. And since these are Primo, it's going to have baked to sort of a matte finish, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to glaze them. And to glaze them, I'm going to use, what am I going to use? I think I will use the Varathane, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to put them on the post first. But let me show you how I finish these. But see, these now are they're kind of stuck. They will come loose from these ball pins. But I'm going to leave them that way. And I'm going to show you how I put them on the earring loop. I take a pair of flat pliers. See, just like this, and I just take this and I bend it over and make a 90-degree angle. See, where's my white? See, like that. Make a 90-degree angle. And take my flat nose pliers out, and actually what I'm going to have to do is cut this off a little bit because it's a little bit too long. You only need about, that's about 3/8 of an inch. About 3/8 of an inch. There. You only need that. So I'm going to cut the rest of this off. And I'm going to go ahead and do it for all, well, I want to bend it first. So let me finish this one. So I've cut this off to about 3/8 of an inch. And now I'm going to take this round, what is it called? The round, I don't know if it's round nose. Anyway, it's the thing that makes round wires. That's real technical, isn't it? Anyway, so I'm going to put it on there, and I'm going to turn. And actually, I need to turn it a little bit more until it wraps all the way around. And all you do is pick this up and turn it. That didn't turn. But anyway, there, we've got a little loop. It's not where it's supposed to be, but I can always fix it. It's just not centered right, but that, you get the idea. You just make a little loop. I'll try to do better on the next one. Let me do this. Let me put my pliers on there. Bend it at a 90-degree angle. I'll try to do the next one better. Cut this off at about 3/8 of an inch. And this set of pliers will make 6 different sizes. You can make jump rings, you can make eye pins, you can do anything with them, but I'm using the very smallest size here because it doesn't need to be a big ring. And try to grab it right on the end, which is what I think I didn't do with the others. Grab it right on the end of that wire and then start to twist up. And just keep turning until it makes a total loop. I don't know why I'm not doing very well with these today. Maybe these eye pins are just too soft. Okay, I'm back, and the pumpkins are out of the oven. And I've been working, I started videoing once and really started messing up, so I don't know what's going on with these pins unless the metal is just too soft. But let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put them on their earring findings, and I like to use these lever back findings just because I have lost so many really nice earrings using French wires, and they fall off. And they fall off because I can't, they just don't stay in my ears. I don't know what it is about them, so I've started using the lever backs, and they're wonderful. They're still pierced, but they're a lever back. But let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to, let me come in just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to hold this on the wire, and I'm going to take the wire and bend it at a 90-degree angle. And then I'm going to nip it off at about, between 3/8 and 1/2 inch. Right there. Excuse my dry hands. I've been working out in the yard, well, not a whole lot, but when I can, and it's drying out my hands. Okay, so I've got that bent and cut. Focus, focus, focus. There it goes. Then I'm going to use the round nose pliers, and these weren't working very well. Let me get my other pair. These are my round nose pliers. And I'm going to take this and grab it right on the end. Like I said, I'm going to grab it right on the end. And then I'm going to just roll while it's still at the 90 degrees, and you continue to roll. Until you get it it needs to close. You need to make sure that this closes, because you're going to put a jump ring in there and you don't want the jump ring to come out. So there you go. There's one it's not at the angle it should be, but I'm tired of fighting them. These are not the best eye pins or head pins. So again, I'm going to grab it with the pliers, bend it at 90 degrees, nip off the excess, take the round nose pliers, put it where you want it, and then just roll. And then release the tension and roll. And you just keep doing that until it meets. This one looks better than the others. I think the secret was in the pliers. But make sure that you get it to close. But there you go. There's a bead ready to go on. But see how when I rolled it all the way closed. If you leave any space in there, you stand a chance of your jump rings coming loose. Now the only jump rings I have that are small enough, others for some reason, I don't know where my smaller jump rings are. I'm sure they're around here somewhere. But I do have some sterling silver ones. So I will just use those because they're the right size. I was going to de-stash them, but I guess I need to use them. So I've got out 4 jump rings. And then I'm going to grab those with my pliers. I'm going to need 2 pair of pliers. There it is. I'm going to find where they open. There you go. You find where they open and you grab it close to that opening. I don't know if that's the opening or not. That could be the opening. Well, let me try. But anyway, grab them with your pliers and take the other pair of pliers and just open them sideways. Whoops, that was not it. Let me try this again. Maybe that's why I wasn't using these, because I can't ever find the opening. I never had any that were so hot. There we go. It was there. Anyway, I've opened the jump ring, and I put one end through the loop that you made in the bead, and the other end in your earring finding, whichever kind you want to use. And then you close it up. And you always open these from side to side. You don't ever pull them open, because if you pull them open, you'll never get them back to where they meet. It's very difficult. And let me make sure these are back where they're supposed to go. That looks good. Let me see if I can find this opening a little bit easier. First, I need to be able to hold on to it. Again, I think I've got it, but I'm not sure. These are really good jump rings, but they're awfully little. But open them by twisting from side to side. And no, that wasn't it either. Sorry about this. I'm not usually such a klutz. I could use my bigger jump rings. Well, I guess I'm going to try it all around until I find one that'll open. Maybe these aren't jump rings. Well, they've got to be jump rings. Take this and open it to the side. Put the earring in. And then put the charm in, and then the earring, and then close it back up. I've never claimed to be a jewelry maker. And let me see. I'm gonna go off camera for a minute and make sure that I can find the openings on these other two jump rings. I'll be right back. Okay, I decided to go with the larger jump rings. What I'm thinking, because I've tried several of these small jump rings, I know with sterling silver some of the jump rings are soldered shut so that they won't have, they won't open up, and I'm thinking that's what these are. I think these have been soldered shut, and that's why I'm having such a difficult time. So I'm going to go with the bigger jump rings, even though in my opinion they're a little bit too large for the project, but some people like them, and as long as both earrings have the same size hoop, it should work okay. So I've opened the jump ring, put on the charm, put on the earring, and you can see I opened it sideways. So now all I need to do, except I can't seem to get my pliers where they need to be, is to take this and just close it back up. Let me just close it back up. You go a little bit beyond, and that should do it. And that's not too bad. But I just don't like the large jump rings. I would rather have it closer. But at least these I know will open up. And I'll just have to buy me some smaller ones, but for the sake of the video I'm going to go ahead and put these on so I can finish these, and I may change the jump rings later. These are 6mm jump rings, and I think I need at least 4. Just a little bit smaller. But then just close it back up. Am I out of the frame? And there you go. We have earrings. And these are the long ones. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is to, well, let me show you that while they're here. To get seasick, there. You can see them close up. But anyway, I'm going to go out probably too much. And now what I'm going to do is I've got some Varathane that I bought it in a gallon jug, and I put it into separate little jars. And I sold some to other guild members. And I have these left. Now what I need to do is to hang these on something. And this is what I use. I'll have to go out probably to show you this. This is what I use. I have my old nameplate. It says Gail Thompson here, that fits over the side of a cubicle. Actually, it's probably upside down for you. But I took that and I had a piece of styrofoam that fit in it just really good. And then I have these pieces of wire that are stuck in it. And what I do when I want to finish something is I take a piece of wire and I'll just put a little bit of a downward hook in it so that these will hang. They just need to be far enough apart that they won't. And then just slip these on here. Just use the earring hook. I'm thinking maybe like that, because you don't want them to hit the styrofoam or the holder. And just stick them on there. So now they're hanging. And this is the brush that I use for my Varathane. This is a water-based polyurethane. It's made by, it used to be called Varathane, but it's, I think, oh, who bought them? But anyway, if you look for Varathane, Diamond Varathane, you get two different types. There's a water-based and an oil-based, and you want to make sure that you use the water-based, because the oil-based will react with the clay and it'll just get sticky. So you want to make sure you use the water-based. Now I'm going to take these off. I just wanted to make sure they would hook properly. And I'm just going to kind of hold it at the top. And I'm going to brush a very thin coat of this Varathane on it. And it'll bring the colors out a little bit better. The green will look a little bit greener and the orange a little bit orangier. And just put a good thin coat of the Varathane. Now you don't want to put it too thick, because if you put it too thick it'll form a drop at the bottom. So you don't want to do that, but you can turn it upside down. It doesn't matter if it gets on your hands, because you can wash it off. Like I said, it's water-based. Soap and water will take it off of your hands. But once it's dry, I like to stick it back in the oven just for about 10 minutes. And it makes a rock-hard covering for your whatever project you're using. So I've done that one. I'm going to hang it on the little hook so that it doesn't hit anything. And my hook turned, so there. And just do this for all four. And if it's not quite shiny enough when you're finished, you can put a second coat on, but just make sure you put them on in thin coats. I probably should start at the bottom, which is not what I did. But just put a thin little coat just so that it looks wet. You can also get Varathane. This is gloss. You can get it in a semi-gloss, and I believe you can get it in a satin. What this actually is a floor finish for wood floors. So that's how hard it is. It's the finish that you would put on hardwood floors when you're ready to protect it. But just make sure you get it all covered. Look all the way around. Make sure your leaves and your tendril and your stem and everything is covered. And just let it hang to dry. And you're finished. Once you get this dry, and you can, sometimes I don't heat set, but since this is something that you wear and it will probably be rubbed against and everything, I think I will heat set it. So finish coating it with the Varathane, let it sit. You can use the Sculpey glaze. I just prefer this Varathane, plus I've got so much of it. And I've had this for years and it's still good. but just making sure all my leaves are covered. Now I will be putting these in my Etsy shop. I'll go over them again. I do things a little bit quicker when I'm doing a video than if I were working on it myself. So I will go over these and see if there's anything that needs to be corrected. But once everything is done, I will put these in my Etsy shop, and I will put the link to my Etsy shop in the notes below the video in case anybody is interested. I've decided as I'm making things, I'm going to just start putting them in there instead of having things sit around that I've made. They're all going to go into my Etsy shop. And I just had my first sale since I've had it. I've had an Etsy shop a few years ago where I was selling some polymer clay canes. And I did sell some things there, but then I got away from it. I think I told you I was taking care of my mother. But anyway, I'm going to let this dry and then see if it needs another coat. But anyway, I was taking care of my mother and just didn't have time to clay anymore. So I closed my Etsy shop, and I don't think I got that leaf. I closed my Etsy shop and just recently reopened it. I started making paper clips for journaling is what got me started, and I just decided now that I'm back doing my clay, I will start putting my clay things in my Etsy shop. So that's it. I hope you enjoy it. Another thing I meant to mention, and I didn't, of course. I'm really good at talking and not saying anything, aren't I? Your pumpkins don't have to be orange. I have seen like white pumpkins. I've seen yellow pumpkins. So they don't have to be orange. You can take some white clay and maybe add some translucent to it so it's not so stark white, and make a white pumpkin. You would do the exact same thing. You put the leaves and the stem and the tendrils on it, but you could have a white pumpkin. You could have different shades of orange. This doesn't have to be the ones that, the color that you want. You can put more brown in it, or do it bright orange if you like bright orange. You can make them a little larger, or and make a pendant, or you can put 2 or 3 of these together on a chain to make a pendant. There's so many things you can do with this. But I know you can't see the way it is, but I can't let them do anything but dangle right now. But hope you enjoyed this. Hope you decide to make some of your own. And I will see you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.